Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us again. My name is Michael Vass with MV Consulting Incorporated, and I want to take a moment to introduce Sheriff David Harder of the Broome County Sheriff's Office.
Good morning.
Morning. We're just going to take a moment to just catch him for a couple minutes, catch up with him, find out his impressions of the re-election, and just let you know a little bit more about him. Again, thank you for giving us the time. I know you're a very busy man with a quick schedule, tough schedule. So let me get right to it.
Sure.
The first thing I want to ask, and I think this is one of the more important questions because it's one of the least asked questions, and that would be, so often police officers at every level are looked at as objects. You're just the badge, the guys that do that job, when people don't really think about you until there's a problem. I want to take a moment for all those who are going to be voting to find out a little bit more about you. Who is David Harder?
David Harder is a person that grew up on the south side of Binghamton. Lived there all my life until the age of 27. Went to Benjamin Franklin, North High School, deeply involved in scouting. Got married to my wife Linda. We've been married 41 years. We have 2 children, 4 grandkids. One of them just entered college. We live in the town of Conklin for the past 40 years. Just a guy that loves being a deputy sheriff. My dad owned we called them back then, a gas station on the corner of Conklin and Tompkins. For 33 years until he died, he worked there. Very successful businessman. He taught me how to work ethics, work hard. And that's what I always felt I've tried to do throughout my career for the Sheriff's Office in the last 46 years.
That's impressive. And I want to thank you for 4, almost 5 decades of service there. I think that's something that's important and should be thankful, and I thank you for that. There is something in that you just mentioned that you kind of missed something. I think it's something important because it touches me as well. You're a former Marine.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. I don't think a lot of people know that. Can you tell us? You mentioned you were in the reserve, correct? And
yes. My uncles were in the Marine Corps, and I think that's where I got the idea from. I joined the Marine Corps when I was still in high school. I went in as a member of the 48th Rifle Company, United States Marine Corps Reserve, which is stationed on Whitney Ave in Binghamton. I did my tour at Parris Island and Camp Geiger infantry training. Came back and did 5 years in the reserves, and came back out. In the meantime, I worked here at the Sheriff's Office at that same time.
So you were kind of protecting the nation while you were protecting the county itself, or the city.
Basically the biggest thing going on back when I was in the Marine Corps was Castro just taking over Cuba.
Oh.
You know, that was the big thing. And
well, that's a big thing to volunteer when something's happening. It's kind of like kids today who are going over. You're making a commitment, and I mean you're doing one locally, and also making the commitment to the nation at the same time.
Yeah, I was in a weapons platoon back then. You know, 3.5 rocket launchers, which were bazookas.
Oh yes.
And machine guns. That was what I was into when I was in the reserves.
Ooh, the heavy ordnance.
Yeah. The little guy always carried the machine gun for some reason. I had a guy that was 6'2", you know, he carried the tripod. I never could figure it out. Typical military.
I don't know. The Corps has some very interesting ideas about how to do things, but God bless it, that's always right. So you're just a regular human being like everyone else, and I don't think too many people see that as often as they should.
Well, I make mistakes like anybody else. That's why I have an eraser. You know, my pencils sometimes get wore out a little bit. He went out and bought a little bit bigger one in case I need it. Everybody makes mistakes, and you just move on. I'm just human like everybody else.
Well, let's going with that theme. Let's go into a little bit of your experience, your history. Obviously, people know you're up for re-election. one of the biggest things about the re-election is going to be the experience between you and your former Under-Sheriff Gary O'Neill.
Okay.
What is your experience that puts you ahead of him and makes and gives a reason for voters to re-elect you?
Well, I think the experience is I've been here for 46 years with the Sheriff's Office, starting right from the ground as a correction officer, working in the jail. I worked road patrol. I worked communications, dispatching, detectives. I worked almost every position there is in the Sheriff's Office, right from the ground floor on up through, until I was voted sheriff in 1998. Okay. And so I think it has a lot of experience there. I've attended a lot of functions, a lot of meetings, met with other sheriffs. I'm a graduate of the National Sheriff's Institute. I just had the experience, period. And I worked with every agency in the county, and from there.
Okay. Let me ask you, since you know your opponent so well, you've worked with him, he's worked for you. What's a great thing about that man, about Gary O'Neill? And what's a thing that you would say makes it not his time right now, if you can?
Well, Gary's a good worker. He came to work. He worked 8 to 4. Mm-hmm. I think the quality that Gary has, he's very knowledgeable in computers, where I'm not quite that knowledgeable. Mm-hmm. But I learn the best I can and work with it. I believe in the future. I brought this department all the way up to where it is. We are the most advanced agency in the county. Mm-hmm. People don't realize that, but we are. We have programs that we run here that no other agency in the county works with. All our computer programs are up to date. We have a lot of young officers. Mm-hmm. What I did is I required anybody entering our agency from corrections or law enforcement to have at least 60 credit hours of college to come on board. And of course the younger people are more in tune to operating computers than I am. I'll just give you, my grandkids can do much better than I am, because they're raised with it, and they're brought up through it. I learn every day something new and work at it.
Well, that's a good ethic. That's a great ethic.
Yes.
Yeah. That's topical.
Okay.
And in a way could potentially apply to Broome County. It's the 9/11 mosque. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
The one in New York City?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, and I know it seems a leap to say it applies here, but let me explain. Let's assume that the 9/11 mosque gets built.
Okay.
Because there is a constitutional right for it to be built. There is no one who disputes that. I'm sure you don't either. The question has always been, should they? Well, let's skip that and let's say they do. There are some who feel that that could have a negative impact for Muslims across the nation. Do you believe that that's an accurate view in terms of from a law enforcement point of view? Is that a concern for you? Is that something that is being prepared for?
No, I don't see it as a concern at this time. I mean, people always have feelings about anybody, mm-hmm. no matter whether it's Muslims or whatever. I think it's up to the individual person. People can react differently. I mean, you have a reaction in New York City, what's going on. Mm-hmm. There's pros and cons. From law enforcement, we have to take the neutral position. We have to abide by the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, mm-hmm. and the laws of the government. And that's where we have to stand. Not what our belief is, but what we have to stay neutral and go by what the law is. Okay. And it's just like the people that were protesting on the EPA. Mm-hmm. Some were against the gas drilling and some were for. Our job is to stay in the middle and just make sure things go nice and smooth. We have our own position, mm-hmm. Maybe in ourselves, but we can't use that. We have to go by the law and the Constitution.
Important for people to have a sense of where your motivation is.
Well, I don't even think about the mosque that much because that's down in New York. I look at the local situation here. We don't have any problems that I'm aware of with the Muslims. We get along very well as far as I know. We have an imam that comes into the jail and meets with the people here. Things are very smooth on that end. What I look at is the crimes that are going on, the burglaries and the robberies and the drugs. Those are the things that keep me busy right now.
Okay.